Welcome back to the Coffeehouse, where the action is happening. Trying to think of a new opening line, right? The action. I don't know about that, but here in the Coffeehouse, we do serve up espresso-sized tidbits of something Agile flavored. I think I'm gonna work on that one for now. I'm your barista, Vic Bonacci, and as always, it's good that you're here. Today we're going to once again spin the wheel, one of my absolute favorite things to do these days. So as always, if it lands on a blank, we'll just go on to the next one here. And yeah, with that, spun it with my left hand. Needed to take a sip, but it didn't go too long, did it? Well, nonetheless, it went long enough to give us this card here on the purpley square, lavender, purple. Let me know what color square you think that is there. It says, oh, writing technical user stories. Writing technical user stories. I almost needed to reach for my glasses for this one, but fortunately was not the case. Technical user stories. So when we work with teams, we're working in, let me rephrase. When I'm working with people who work with teams, most of the teams that they're working with, and certainly the teams that I've been working with, have been technical insofar as they've been software or IT tangential, let's say. So usually I'm working with teams that are technical in the terms of writing software or doing something with computers. Doesn't necessarily have to be writing software, but so when I say, when this card says writing technical user stories, what we're talking about here is that we may write a user story oftentimes from the perspective of an end user, some customer, perhaps someone who's going to use the functionality of the software or product that we're creating. On the other hand, we may also have requirements, and by the way, these user stories are representations of requirements, and we'll dive into that here in just a moment. So you've got these requirements from a user's point of view. What's the functionality? What are the features you're hoping to deliver or solve the needs for this set of users? But also you may have requirements that are maybe non-functional, maybe technical requirements, such as the performance of the product, the scalability, the security of the product, and there's probably many other other technical aspects as well. And so when we write the requirements into a form that allows us as developers, no matter what your role, if you're like a programmer, a tester, a database engineer, a designer, analyst, whatever role you might have, we call you a developer. At least I should say that's in the Scrum guide. But I mean, if you're not on a Scrum team, if you're on an Agile team, let's just go with this idea of you're a member of a cross-functional team. And when you receive requirements, what we prefer you to do, and this is right out of the Agile Manifesto, is to get up, get up out of your chair and walk on over to someone who represents the customer, someone who's got a good grasp on what that requirement is. And so again, if you're in the world of functional requirements from an end user, we might write that card, that requirement, in the form of what's called a user story. I'm going to botch where it came from. Of course, like Kent Beck and extreme programming kind of started the whole idea of like, don't make me read the requirements, tell me a story. How's the user going to use this product or this feature? And then I believe the name I'm about to botch, I think it's Contexa, or sorry about that. So we had this format coming out of this Connexta, can't remember what the organization is off the top of my head, and it was phrased in the following way: as a blank for the user, I want, or I want to, what do you want, what's the need you're trying to do, what's the action you're trying to do, so that I could get some value. So it's as a, I want to, so that is the typical user story format. And again, we use that oftentimes with features when we're talking about writing requirements for end users who are asking for features or functionality. As a, this type of user, I want to accomplish this goal, or I want to do this action so that I could get this value, right? Back to the technical user stories, however, rather than trying to shoehorn a technical user story into this user story format, a technical requirement into a user story format, which might sound awkward. For example, as a database architect, I want to store secure passwords so that I keep my job. It doesn't quite flow as well as it should, because you're forcing a requirement into a template, which is just a suggestion. It's not a hard and fast rule. Nonetheless, it's been out there for a while. Trying to force this technical requirement into this user-focused template, this user story, and it's not working. So instead of saying, as a database engineer, going down that road, you could try substitute user story formats. In fact, I keep saying user story. They might be called a job story or a system story. So for example, our database example, you may say, in order to provide secure storage of passwords, the database system needs to run a hashing algorithm before storing the password. A jobs story is similar. You may say, for an altogether different example here, when such and such occurs, I want to do this so that I receive the value. And here it might say, when disk usage is over 85%, I want to send an email to some DevOps engineer type person so that we could avoid disk failure, like crashing the system, basically. So either of these, the job story that I just walked through as an example, or the system story, which says the database or whatever system shall do something, those are both different examples, different templates that you could use instead of the user story. So I know I'm being very long-winded and perhaps maybe too precise here and there, but I hear a lot of people misusing user stories. And again, going back to something I said just a moment ago, user stories and job and system stories, these are all just templates. Feel free to experiment with the writing that you have and see what works best, so that when your developer picks up the card and wants to understand what the ask is, what is the requirement, it gives them enough context. We are advising that they get up out of their chair and go talk to this product owner or person who is representing the customer, so that they could get that additional context. But in their absence, the product owner's absence, it still gives the developer the ability to read into it who's going to use it, or what's the purpose, or what system needs to be affected, what is the job that's being called out here. What do you think? User stories, job stories, system stories, or no stories at all? Let me know what you think. Keep in touch. I'm happy to reach out to people and follow up with conversation. And I'll continue to come back here and spin the wheel. Until next time, just reminder to enjoy your coffee with friends.